Hello, everyone. It is your boy, Who's Your Homies, and today I will be going over everything that I have learned as a new player in Marvel Rivals. For those of you who don't know, I recently just hit Plat in less than 50 hours, and I'm going to be hopefully hitting Diamond here tonight. And I kind of just want to go over some things that I have learned and some of the things that I'm doing in my games that are helping me rank up, especially as a solo queue player. Because there's a lot of very, very small details that people miss out on and mistakes that you guys might be making, or mistakes that I'm still making even to this point, that you may not be noticing. So let's get right into it. Okay, so the very first thing that I want to go over in this video is who you should be playing. And I'm not going to go over meta characters, and the reason for that is I don't believe that meta characters are what is going to carry you through the ranks. Because oftentimes you play a meta character, whether you're good at them or not, you might not do well. And that is simply because of team composition. And as a solo queue player, if you are solo queuing, you need to learn how to flex. And for those of you who don't know what flex means, you need to be able to fill any role at any point in the game when your team is in desperate need of it. I would recommend learning at least 2 or 3 characters of every style. So I would learn 2 or 3 vanguards. I would learn 2 or 3 duelists, and I would learn 2 or 3 strategists. For me personally, I really like Penny Parker and Venom for my vanguards. I really like Hela. I really like Star-Lord for my duelists. And then for my strategists, I'm a really, really big fan of White Fox, and I also can occasionally play a Luna Snow. Um, so that's just personally for me. And of course, for you guys, it might be totally different, and that's fine. The reason I say that is because your play style is what picks the character you're playing. Let me say that again. Your play style is what picks the character that you are playing. What I mean by that is if I think I'm gonna play dive in this game, and let's say we have a Venom already, or we have a Black Panther, or we have a Spider-Man or a Cat. What I'm going to do is I'm going to be like, okay, I know that I like to dive, but we already have a diver. What can I do to help my already current diver get to that back line successfully and get out successfully? Who is the best current, in my opinion, dive support in the entire game? That is easily White Fox. So I'm going to get on White Fox, who I'm already very good at, and I'm going to help that diver stay alive and get picks. Right? Let's say we're running a team comp that's more staying on cart or staying on point, right? And you have a Strange, and you have a Strange, you have a Namor, you have that backline support for your supports. You have all of this stuff. I might play Hela, trying to get those frontline picks, maybe get a pick on a healer from up front, right? So some things like that are important. And you have to know your play style before you choose who you're playing. And we're going to get into team compositions here in just a second, but I really want to make sure you guys know that your play style is really who determines who your main is. You can't just say, this is who I'm going to main, because you might not be playing the way that they are meant to be played. So that's really, really important for me. So the next thing that I want to go over here today is communication. Now, this is something that I feel is forgotten by not only new players, but also some of your higher ranking players. Even at my current rank of like higher plat, there are times where I have no one to communicate with in my games. And it can make it really, really hard for your team to know where to look, where we should be pushing, what should we be doing, what should we be switching our characters to, things like that. And if you have no one in your game who is either communicating through chat or communicating through voice, you need to become that person, whether you want to or not. If you want to win your game, if you want to clutch up in a really, really tough situation, you need to be willing to be that person on your team that is going to communicate at the most important of times. And the reason for that is sometimes when we're playing and we're just quiet, our brains go on something called autopilot. I'm sure you guys have probably heard autopilot before, but we kind of just do things and we do things and we do things. And we're not actually looking at what we should be doing differently that can either A, get us control of point better, B, help us win those frontline fights. And it's so important that you're communicating, because if you're not communicating, what happens is your team just goes on autopilot and then you get staggered, which is another thing that I'm about to go into. But you have to be willing to communicate when it is important, not only when it's important, But even just like in between rounds, be like, hey, this is something I think we should do based on their last team. Hey, this is something that I'm seeing that you guys might not be seeing. Like, ooh, hey, there's a Psylocke that's diving our strategists every single time they come out of their spawn. We need to make sure that we're paying attention to that because our strategists are going 1 for 4 and they're not able to heal us, which is why we're dying every single time. And I think that's just so important for you guys to kind of pick up on is you need to communicate. So the next thing I want to go into is knowing your team. What I mean by that is you need to know who your team is playing and what they can do, and who your opponents are playing and what they can do. The reason this is so important is this is just general game knowledge, right? General, really, really important stuff where it's like, hey, I've never seen that character that's on their team before. What do they do? You can ask your team. You can do different things. You can watch what they're doing, if they're backlining, if they're playing up front. You can see that kind of things. And you should be able to pick up on that pretty quickly by one, what role they're playing, but two, just watching what they're doing. Are they pushing up? Are they being aggressive? Are they doing those things? Because if you're not aware of what your opponent is trying to do with their team composition, you're not going to be aware of what you can do to counter that. And if you can't counter it, then that other team is just going to have an absolute field day running through cart, dominating the point, doing those different things way better than your team is doing because your team is just unable to counter it. And that could be your fault. That could be the team's fault. That could be your team's composition. That could be many, many different things, but you need to be willing and able to correct those things as quick as possible, which is why we talked about earlier, learning how to flex, playing different characters. You need to be able to do those kind of things to counter these other characters, because if not, then those characters that are against your team comp are just going to have a great day against your team. One of the last things that I want to go into here is that Marvel Rivals really, really focuses on your ability to work as a team, relying on how well you can coordinate with your team, because solo queuing can really be a challenge, especially if no one on your team is talking to you, right? So playing as your team, don't get staggered. Do those things. We're going to go into that, right? So when I say staggering, what I'm truly talking about is two people should never be alone in a team fight, right? If the rest of your team is dead, those two people need to wait. They need to take their time. That one person needs to wait. They need to take their time, because if they go in, they're just throwing another life. That other team is pushing up cart. Their percentage on point is going up. You need to be calm. Don't get angry. You died one time. Stay relaxed. Tell your team, stay relaxed. It's okay. We're still in this game. We just need to do this. We need to do this. If the other team is really, really focused on killing those supports, you need to communicate that. Say, hey, this other team is really, really looking at getting on our supports. We need to make sure that we're able to kill their divers. We need to make sure that we're able to counter their divers. Maybe you need to play someone who can counter the divers. Maybe there's no one on your team who can. Maybe you need a Penny. Maybe you need a Namor, right? Maybe you need those characters on your team to really provide. Communicate those things. Talk to your team. Be a team, right? Especially when you get higher in the ranks. More people will have microphones and they can talk to you, but you need to be the voice at all times, regardless if you are a strong talker or not. Maybe you can chat it. You need to be willing to be that voice for your team. And if you're not, you're going to constantly go through this cycle of, wow, no one is picking up on these things. It might be because, one, they're not seeing it. You need to be willing to communicate that to them. Be the voice of reason for them. Last thing I want to talk about in this video today is skill gap. And I'm going to use the term skill gap differently than most normal people would use the term skill gap. When I think about skill gap, let's say there is a certain character that your team really, really needs if they want to be successful, right? But you have never played that character in your life. Should you A, play that character, or B, ask somebody else on your team to play that character? If you choose option A, if you decide to play that character, you are taking all the skill that you've worked up, right? Let's say that you have been maining Luna Snow, and you've been maining Loki, and you've been maining Black Cat. Let's say those are the 3 characters you've been playing. And you go and you play not only a Vanguard, a role that you've never played before, but also a character you've never played before. You're not a plat anymore. You are a bronze trying a new character. You are the lowest tier now because you've never played this character. You don't know what they do. You don't know how they do it effectively. You might have seen other people play them very good against you, but you've never personally played that character. So you need to ask. You need to be like, hey, has anybody ever played this character? Is anybody good on this character? We really need this for our team right now. You need to be like, hey, I'm not the right fit for that. I'm not the right role for this. And that's where skill gap comes in. You need to be willing to say, hey, that's not a right fit for me. Can somebody else fill that role? You need to be willing to communicate that. The other thing I want to go into with the term skill gap is you will meet players who on the other team are better than you, players on your team that are better than you. And it's not necessarily, hey, they're way better than me because their stats are better. They might be better than you because they're out positioning you. They might be better than you because they're playing a different off angle than you. They might be better than you because they're seeing those things. Maybe you need to go back into that game, into your history, rewatch that game and be like, hey, that's what they did effectively. I need to pick up on that. I need to do better in that area. Really look back on who you are and become a better player. Once again, thank you guys so much for watching this video. And I really, really hope that you guys enjoy this because I want to make more Marvel Rivals content. Thank you so much. Have a great day, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye-bye.